Good morning and welcome to the first edition of Welcome to Behind the Scenes. I'm Leanne McPherson, I'm Company Secretary at KBE Event Limited, and over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to be speaking to the event personnel who make all the lovely events that we see in the UK and across Europe and further afield happen. This morning, we're starting with Stuart McPherson, our CEO, thank you for joining us, Stuart, today, for taking the time out. If I may, just a very few quick questions, really, to just introduce anyone who hasn't met you before to who you are and what you do. So, what was it that first attracted you to the entertainment industry?
I think for me, I found my way into transport in the late 80s, and found I was actually reasonably good at it. But sort of the way that transport professionals and companies are tread in the normal world is not great. I like a lot of people stumbled into this industry in the late 80s, early 90s, and actually found that that I loved the industry. I love what we do. I love what it involved. And most importantly, the thing that really attracted me to the industry were the people I got to work with and work for. You know, the way that our discipline in the event industry is viewed is very much as a key part of the whole process of delivering shows. So actually you treat with respect and decency, and you get to work with some really lovely people as well. So primarily for me, away from the buzz of what we do and the joy of putting events on, it was the people in the industry that attracted me and brought me into it.
Okay, all right, thank you. How have things changed? I mean, when did you set KB Event up?
KBE Event started back in 1992. I came up with the concept in 91 after starting to work in the industry in the early 90s. And I felt that there was a gap in the market, a hole in the market for a business that could approach things in a slightly different way, in a different manner, bring more than just sort of throwing a few trucks and a few drivers at sort of an event. And that's really how the ethos of KBE Event started and where I started the business. So as a young kid of 22 years old, KBE Event was born in 92. At that point, to answer your question, really, how it's changed since then, it was very much
a period of time, isn't it, Stu?
It's been a fun and long journey. It was at that point, it was a very cottage industry really at that point, sort of in a lot of ways, in the nicest possible way. In the late 80s and early 90s, we were making it up as we were going along really. That some of our competitors, people like Edwin Shirley, had been around for a little while at that point, but to be honest, the industry as a professional industry was still finding its feet. The difference between sort of then and 30 years on to where we are now in 2022, it's a very, very professional sort of industry. So some of the things we got up to around and about the early days of the business, we wouldn't tolerate ourselves doing, let anybody else doing.
It was a book that you talk about.
No, I'm not like that. I'm afraid that's my career and probably our business. But it's a very professional industry in comparison to where it was now. The approach to how we do things and how we deliver things is very different. So I guess in that respect, the way events and delivering events approached is a lot slicker, a lot more professional, a lot more considered, a lot more structured than it was when we started back in the early 90s.
It's still just as much fun, I'm assuming.
I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else. This is to be honest, I've always said to people, working in this industry, it's not a career choice, it's a life choice. If you don't love what you do in this industry, don't do it. Get out, go and get a milk round or something. Don't do this. It'll make you miserable. You live this and that's why it's so wonderful that we work with so many great people across the industry, really.
Yeah, amazing. In terms of the stuff that's happened, I mean, anyone who's watching this and anybody who's worked in the industry for a while will know what challenges we've been facing over the last 24 months. But in your opinion, what are we facing, particularly as event hauliers? What are the challenges that we are facing moving forward? And then the wider picture, what is the industry facing in terms of challenges moving forward?
I think your point is really, really well sort of split. The biggest challenge facing event hauliers, trucking companies at the moment is Brexit, actually. And that actually also impacts very much more widely on events generally. Where we've ended up with the TCA, the agreement that was struck between the UK and the EU on the Brexit deal, we, as a UK-based company, can't deliver tours anymore. We're very limited. We can't deliver road shows from the UK anymore. We're very limited to what we can do in mainland Europe. As 60 to 80% of our business is generated in mainland Europe. As a company, it restricts us on what we can and can't deliver.
Sorry, can I just clarify there? When you're talking about the TCA, who do you mean? What are they? What is that? What is that thing?
Trade cooperation agreement between the UK and the EU. It's the Brexit deal, as people call it. The TCA is the trade cooperation agreement. So that really restricts. That's changed the law in how we can operate. I'm not going to go into too long a conversation to sort of get into in this brief chat here, but sort of it restricts what we can do as a business. We've combated that, as you know, by opening in Ireland, bringing us an EU base, and we've worked very closely with the RHA and DFT, and our now current managing directors work very closely with us on that, in coming up with some solutions to allow our UK and our EU fleet to work more flexibly in the UK. So we're finding ways around it, but the only way really to do that is to move into the EU with all the costs that involves and all the technicalities that involves. That's one of the biggest challenges for us. That's a massive challenge for the industry, because also it means now, whereas there were, although only probably 5 or 6 or 7 big transport companies in the UK, there were 30 or 40 smaller 1, 2, 3 truck operators who work in the industry that supported us and people like us when we needed them, and also sucked up part of the requirement. Those guys can't now operate in Europe, they can't tour. So the requirement is still there, and actually is greater this year with shows that have been rescheduled, with tickets that have been pushed forward from shows that were cancelled, as well as new shows going on tour. The demand this year and next year is just enormous, and the resource base is not there to cover it and deliver it. So there's a massive challenge for us and for our clients and the event industry as a whole in terms of delivering shows. So in that respect, as a trucking company, that's one of our biggest challenges. Challenges for the industry as a whole, I think, Brexit is one of them, and we've got to navigate our way through that for our clients. But the biggest challenge, I think, coming out the back of the pandemic is shortage of people. A lot of people have left the industry. A lot of people have gone and got normal jobs or 9-to-5 jobs, and they're not coming back. So there's a distinct shortage of people, and there have been company failures. People have disposed of kit, and with some of the supply chain shortages that you've got post-pandemic, new kit can't be produced at the moment at the rate that it needs to be. So there's a shortage of equipment, there's a shortage of people, there's a shortage of resource available to deliver events this year, with a massive demand for events. So I think we've got a challenging year sort of 2 years ahead of us, sort of, to actually get us back on track.
Yeah. Do you think that is recognised across the industry,
or do you absolutely
think that it's
I think everybody's living it at the moment, and everyone's starting to sort of get it. A lot of people have been shouting about this for 10, 12 months now, and everybody's actually experiencing it, trying to book crew, trying to book kit, trying to book equipment, trying to book trucks. Everybody's experiencing a massive increase in costs, and sort of, and what's going on the political spectrum at the moment is just sort of also playing more to the cost element, particularly what we're providing. So everybody's feeling that pain at the moment. So yeah, it's very much aware. People are very much aware of it in the marketplace at the moment.
And do you think that we will get to those terrible situations where perhaps people just can't? They've got a market for it, an audience for it, they've got a booking for it, but they simply can't do it. Do you think that we will reach cancellation?
I'm absolutely certain there are people now rescheduling tours. I know there are people rescheduling tours at the moment because they can't get resource to cover them. So yeah, we sadly are now turning business away. As much as it breaks my heart, we've got to deliver shows at a quality, at a level that is acceptable to us and to our clients. We can't just keep accepting work because people are firing at us. We don't have the resource, we don't have the people to continue to do that. Breaks my heart. We're fleeting up. We're looking at new resourcing options at the moment. We have new trucks coming in from the EU, which we're importing rapidly to try and increase the fleet and employ drivers to train. But we're not going to be able to do that at a rate that's fast enough to cover the problems that we face at the moment. But anyway, look, we're drifting off into Brexit. So
no, absolutely. Having a look back at the past, over the umpty diddly years that you've been doing what you've been doing, is there one particular event that you worked on, or one particular challenge that really stands out? I had a similar conversation with Andy Shaw about the one that he will always remember, and for him it was London 2012, and being the man on site, watching the opening ceremony being built, and watching the whole of that infrastructure. Is there one that will always stick with you, that was either a lying awake at night week after week, or, oh my God, I'm so proud I was part of that? Or perhaps a combination of both. Perhaps it was the same thing.
They go hand in hand. To be honest, there are many, and singling out one individual and saying that's the only one would be unfair. I think one of the things I was happiest sort of to be involved in, and proudest to be involved in, I think, was probably the Ed Sheeran Divide tour. You know, sort of with the trust that Chris Marsh, as our production manager, put into myself as his transport manager for the tour, for the involvement in the North American side, bringing Helen sort of on board and her sort of running with that banner. You know, seeing that whole thing coming together and being such a well-oiled machine and sitting in the centre of that as part of Chris's team, for me was massively rewarding, and I'm incredibly proud of that. And at the end of the day, look, it's the biggest tour the world has ever seen, and you know, we were key to part of that delivery, and I was part of that management team. So for me, I guess that's one of the ones that sticks closest to me. But there are so many from the early days. You know, you go to our first major show after we've been going for 8 months. We took on the Carmen European Tour, which is 28 trucks for a company 8 months old. The European Tour for Harvey Goldsmith's company at that point, Allied Entertainment. You know, I was hugely proud that we'd won that. You know, to get that trust from Harvey's team to deliver that was an amazing feat after only being in existence for 8 months. So along the 30 years, there are so many that we could talk about, but I think the Ed Sheeran Divide Tour is one that sits very close to my heart right now.
Okay, all right, that's amazing, because I mean, you know, as we know, he's due to go out again, and I can remember you and I having that conversation, you know, about him playing Wembley, you know, and how amazing it was that one individual was going to stand up on that massive stage, and you know, everybody involved in that delivered that incredible show, and then the next tour he goes out and does it even bigger. So yeah, I get that. Just one final question really to finish off, and then this is a funny one. It's not really pertinent to the industry, but whether it will give people a greater insight into you. If you hadn't done this, would there have been something else that you would have loved to have done?
Love to have done, I don't know, to be honest.
Or you were contemplating on
it's you know, I think, to be truthful, in brief, my background, originally my target, my orientation before I stumbled into trucking and transport was computers. I studied sort of going to computer science, or as a computer programmer, systems analyst. That's what I aimed myself at from my younger education years through to higher education, and came out the back of that, went to have a look at sort of the career I was moving into, and took one look at it and thought, fuck that. You know, it was full of pasty people at that point. I'm going back to the 80s, but pasty people sitting in cubicles, seeing no sunlight and staring at screens. And it didn't suit my character, my personality. So I was kind of left scratching my head and thinking, what the hell am I going to do? And it was my cousin, who was a manager for a big German transport company, who said, have you thought about transport? And actually, in reality, you know, transport and trucking sort of are very akin to sort of mathematical equations. You know, it's about dealing with formula and numbers and sort of coming up with solutions to sort of to a bigger equation, really. So I found my mind worked reasonably well in terms of applying myself to logistical challenges and problems. So I found out I was kind of okay at transport, really. Fell into it, and actually really enjoyed the challenge of transport. And it goes back to your first question, but sort of just didn't like the way that transport operators, transport companies, and people who work within it were dealt. I think if you ask, is there another job I'd like to do in this industry? No, this is what I think we are really quite good at, and I'm okay at from my perspective. So I love what I do. If I hadn't gone into transport, computers was where I was going, really, but transport ended up being, and thank goodness I stumbled into the event industry. So
absolutely,
this is where I stay. I love it.
I would have wanted to have joined you in a computer company, Stuart, but I have to say that the people at KBE are always very, very grateful for the fact that you do have a computer understanding, because you still remain, even as our CEO, is the guy to go to if something's not working properly. So anyway, listen, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. Really, really lovely to talk to you, and yeah, great, and wish you the best of luck over the summer. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.